God was not happy. Gabriel had been with him long enough, about as long as time itself, to know when he was in the company of an unhappy Almighty, and an unhappy Almighty was one, in Gabriel's experience, to steer clear of, or at least not one to deliberately strike up a conversation with, especially when he, the loyal but not altogether obedient archangel, was the likely source of this deific discontent. Not that Gabriel was in danger of suffering any divine retribution, no more than the good Lord's myriad creatures scattered around the cosmos. That was all part of the mythology. Fire, brimstone, earthquakes, ammonia storms on Asclia, plasma plagues, Splong, even pouring rain on summer weddings, Earth. None of these had anything to do with sin and punishment. They were all preordained and were going to occur anyway. Whether you behaved perfectly, which on Asclia included spitting foul orifice extrusions at each other, or horribly. I wish they were all rather less inclined to take it so personally, God sighed at times. To which Gabriel responded, well, you haven't exactly worked hard to put them right on that. I mean, look at the liquid telepathy divine missives on Trix, which Gabriel did not pronounce that way, but it's as close as we can get here. Full of dire warnings about apocalyptic sinkquakes and Earth. Well, the Bible and the Quran, all that stuff about the wrath of the Lord and all that. Not exactly predicting a little tap on the head. There you go, my children. Try to do better next time. Thank you, Gabriel, God murmured on such occasions, wanting to add that all the intelligent members of his universal flock, and that includes humans, Gabriel, if you don't mind, had to be allowed their own interpretation of his signs within the context of their own cultures and their freedom of self-determination. However, he kept that remark to himself to avoid a lengthy discourse about how social conditions changed over time, and could he not have found a way to bring some of those interpretations up to date a bit. This kind of circular argument, in which Gabriel habitually failed to see or willfully ignored the fundamental precept of neither meddling with intellectual development nor with the physical universe, was a discussion with the potential to continue indefinitely. Even where time was not a factor, this to God was an extremely tedious prospect. So, the fact that the wrath of the Lord was a human misunderstanding, which he could not just step in to correct, was a subject left unbroached, if at all possible. Running the universe was a bit more subtle than that. I mean, how about the Bible, the remake, or the Quran, the sequel? Chimed in Gabriel after silence. Here you go, my flock, or whatever. Now you've grown up a few centuries and have got a bit of science behind you. Here's an update. If a load of you get squashed under an earthquake, it's not my way of punishing you for being trash. You do that to yourselves enough with all your wars and killing each other. Gabriel, God had thundered on more than one such occasion, during such conversations, just to bring him to a halt. He sometimes considered that if it were left to Gabriel, there would be tablets on mountains, visitations in caves, and strange stars in the sky about 2 or 3 times a decade, meddling to the point of creating abject boredom. Oh, here's something from God again. Will you open it, or do I have to? And actually, interfering to the point of making a nonsense of the twin pillars of preordination and self-determination. Right now, though, the issue of non-existent divine retribution apart, the Lord was feeling not entirely sure how to engage the subject of the angel's deviation from instructions, since those orders themselves had included a significant degree of hitherto prohibited meddling. Gabriel was conscious of the Lord's quandary, and with a smugness he was studiously trying to conceal, considered he could tactically wait for him to speak first. He applied his attention to the recently neglected gap beside the little toe on the left foot, frowning and grunting with exaggerated concentration. After a lengthy silence, in which it became clear to the Lord that Gabriel was not going to volunteer an explanation, despite being confronted with evident holy disquiet, he remarked dryly, "So you thought it appropriate to scare the living daylights out of him? An imaginative approach, wouldn't you concede?" Gabriel shuffled slightly and muttered truculently, "Only the same as the Damascus Road, boss." "And did I not tell you about going over the top then?" came the frosty reply. "It worked," Gabriel grumbled into the offending gap while jabbing a finger into it. "Worked? If you mean you bludgeon them into obedience by putting the fear of... The Lord hesitated. God, precisely into them. The Lord was troubled. Like divine retribution, so much emphasis on fear. Began Gabriel, I mean, it has to work, doesn't it? Can you rely on love alone for the love of God and all that? How could we be sure? Look at all they've accomplished on earth for the fear of God. Yes, indeed. If sarcasm were at all a holy virtue, which of course it is not, one might have detected an element of it in the Lord's response. He was about to proceed with the retort, how many millions dead? But, not unusually, Gabriel was cantering on ahead of him. OK, maybe not fear, exactly, not terror, though he could not help recalling the expression on Elroy's face. But awe, you know, love and awe. The shepherds, Saul, Joan of Arc, please do not mention her. The Lord winced. All of them. The angel was making a blinkered charge down the back straight. A bit of both, isn't it? Enough love to make them want to do it, enough awe to terrorise them. No, not terrorise. None of them look like that. Just, they feel they have no choice. I mean, that's the plan, isn't it? Gabriel had passed the winning post. God breathed deeply. Love and fear, or love and awe, like dogs. Did he wish to subjugate his civilized creatures like dogs? A kind of panting, tongue-lolling, cringing, fearful love? The love that obeys because it also fears? What kind of a relationship is that? What happens when the love fades? When choice emerges? When the alternative to right is wrong? When the preference to good is bad? When children start smoking? When greed leads to theft? When power enables control and, that word again, subjugation? And the fear itself had been willfully manipulated like a tool. Fear God, and may he have mercy upon your soul. The crackle of the fire, the thunder of guns, the turn of the rack, the twang of the rope, for the fear of God. The Lord brought himself and his musings back to the immediate discussion. Plan? He queried. The plan. They have to be shown what to do and be certain to do it. And will he? Inquired the Lord. I shone, replied Gabriel simply. Yes, I did notice, said the Lord. You have a habit of nearly blinding them. Just a bit of a glow, protested the angel. Make a bit of an impression. It has a big effect, all that light, especially when they can't see where it's coming from. I sometimes think, mused the Lord softly, we're lucky they don't just end up in a lunatic asylum. I don't think they have those anymore, boss. Not there anyway. You know what I mean. What could he say? They had set it in motion. Gabriel's enthusiasm was not something easily curbed. Perhaps it was the key to success. The shepherds, after all. However, the Lord's tone changed. It was cooler, less benign, as he remembered the real reason he had felt unhappy, almost annoyed, had that sentiment been at all possible in the Supreme Being, which of course it was not. Nevertheless, the reason he had wanted a word with Gabriel as soon as he returned from the mission. Gov? Gabriel looked up a little cautiously as he wiped a finger down his chest. God observed his less than obedient angel. I thought I said no wings. Oh, boss, Gabriel replied with a pained expression. They were the icing on the cake.